Good morning, Edgewood Golf Shop. This is Greg. How can I help you? Yeah, I'm wondering if I could get a tee time. Sure. How about around 8:30? That's too early. Do you have something later? Sure. Anytime between 5:30 6 work okay? Well, no, I was really looking for some time around 10 o'clock. Oh, great. I have 9:36 or 10:16. Well, does Matt happen to be there? I'm sorry, we don't have a Matt that works here. Matt Cook doesn't work at Rose Creek anymore? Well, this is Edgewood. I'm sorry, I got the wrong number. Click. Welcome to episode 2 of What's My Tee Time. My name is Greg McCullough. I'm the golf professional at Edgewood Golf Course, and I'm joined today by
Matt Cook from Rose Creek Golf Course.
Matt, have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
You know, we get a lot of unusual phone calls, especially in regards to tee times, and so that's something that's not too far off base from what we've seen before.
Have they ever asked for Greg?
You know what? I don't think anybody's asked for you here.
I don't think anybody asked for me really anywhere. So as we go through our podcast, we'll start each podcast with a tee time fun deal that we end up going through for quite frequently. Today, again, on our podcast, what we'd like to do is we did What's My Tee Time. We'll go through a little bit of a rules update. We'll go through a little bit of our numbers section. And at the end, if we have any awards, we'll hand out the Greggie and Mattie Awards at the end. So, Matt, waste management, what do you think? Did we have any rules questions?
Boy, rules. I think we're going to find out quickly here as far as the early season that there's a lot of questions out there, and players are still learning. There's a couple incidences that happened, both I think on the PGA Tour and then also overseas. First of all, kudos to Ricky Fowler. That was fantastic. Finally was able to close one after not such a great experience last year.
We were all kind of wondering, or at least I was, sitting there watching when the shoe would drop with Ricky because he's had a hard time finishing in places. Phoenix is notoriously a place where the leader doesn't win after having the 54-hole lead. He was doing great. He was 5 shots ahead, standing on, I think, 11, and he just had a little chip shot, and then it was like 15 minutes of Bizarro World. It was like a Seinfeld episode. Matt, did you happen to see it?
You know what? I caught it on the replay. We actually had some obligations Sunday afternoon, so when I got back home, I couldn't believe when I checked my phone, and I saw the last I had seen also was his large lead, and then pretty soon he's 1 shot back. Couldn't believe as far as that chip shot, first of all. I understand the conditions weren't ideal, and might have got a little water, between the club face and the ball potentially, and the ball might have maybe even hydroplaned or skipped on him, but still, just didn't seem to make much sense there to be quite that aggressive in that situation.
So if you didn't happen to see it, Ricky had a little pitch shot short of a green, probably had 90 feet to the green, and just over where the green was, it was a little bit of a bunker and a hazard, and Ricky's shot didn't check up, rolled over the green, somehow missed the bunker. I don't know how it missed the bunker, and rolled in a hazard. No big deal. Ricky goes up there, and it's pretty steep there, goes and drops his ball. Ball is in play. Ball wasn't moving. His caddy is doing other stuff 20 feet away. Ricky walks up to the putting green, and all of a sudden his ball is gone. Most unbelievable thing. It was like slow motion. The ball rolled actually after being in play, because once you drop it like that, the ball's in play. Ball rolled back into hazard. Now he has to take another penalty, and he actually makes a great putt for triple going on. But that's one of those cases, again, where the rules and where to drop and how to drop and things like that. I was surprised he didn't go back to his original spot. I don't think a tour player is going to pitch it into the water twice in a row. The shot that he had wasn't very easy to begin with, but he decided to do it. So if we can talk about that at a later date. Our second ruling happened, actually, and this is a new rule for us this year, overseas with Sergio Garcia. Matt, did you happen to see that?
Once again, I did see the replay on Sergio's little bit of an outburst there, and heard some of the other rumors of what else went on throughout that round. Very unfortunate situation there once again.
Right, and this is a new rule this year. Previously, I don't believe Ricky could have been disqualified for what he had done. I do know that the rules official did say that the group that were playing behind Sergio were complaining that he was doing some damage to the greens. And this year we have a new rule, Code of Conduct Rule 1.2, that states the committee may set its own standards of player conduct in a conduct adopted as a local rule, and both tours will have that local rule. This obviously is not something that is very professional, and the Code of Conduct needs to be taken care of. Sergio had obviously admitted what he had done and apologized for it, but it's not the first time I don't think Sergio's been involved in things like this.
No, he's had so many situations all the way back from the comments he made about Tiger Woods back years ago to his incident here, I don't know how many years ago, was when he spit in the cup. Just showing a lot of really disrespect to his fellow players and, overall just to the game of golf. A lot of people know that he's a fiery individual, but once again, it just doesn't seem to be an excuse. And so for a player of his caliber, very disappointing as far as to see something like that.
Yeah, I don't really know if there's something else going on or what actually happened, because he did get there they go. The doorbell rang. It's our tea time, Matt. I don't know what's going on with him. I do know that this was a new golf course. It's a new event, but he was getting an appearance fee to play. So we'll see what the next time Ricky plays, what happens. Last time we talked about some rules of golf. We'll continue to that this week. One of the rules that we didn't talk about last time, Matt, is Rule 13 on the putting green and what is allowed with fixing damage.
Yeah, they've changed some things this year. Before you weren't able to touch anything really, basically, as far as in your line. You could fix old ball marks, but spike marks were taboo, and so now they've really opened it up to allow that player to go ahead and fix some of those imperfections, such as spike marks, ball marks. But there are a few things I think still that we are unable to touch as far as on that line of putt.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I know it. Before we always wondered why we didn't get to fix spike marks and the such, and I wonder sometimes if this won't maybe. What do you think about going away from plastic spikes now and back to the spikes that we had before?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how some people decide to go that route. I think there's other things even from a superintendent standpoint. I think that would prefer that we kind of stay the way we are. However, I don't know. I think I'd be surprised if we change.
Yeah, so basically what the rule says is the player can fix damage on the putting green, any damage caused by a person or outside influence such as ball marks, shoe damage, such as spike marks, scrapes, indentations caused by equipment or flag stick, if you scrape the flag around, old hole plugs, turf plugs, any seams in the turf, anything like that, where previously we were not allowed to fix it and now we are. Animal tracks or hoof indentations. So if you have deer or whatever the case might be, you can fix those. And any embedded objects such as a stone, acorn, or tee. It'll be interesting to see if that speeds play up or if it slows play down, because now we can fix all the stuff. Hopefully, I believe in our rules session that they said, the first group's got a perfect green, the second group's going to fix the marks that the first group made, the third group's going to fix the mark that the second group made. We'll see how that happens. I think that's great in theory if you're all on the same line, but I think the putting green all over the place. So again, all these new rule changes to get it faster. We hope you do be able to do this without undue delay. We don't want it to take longer. Some of the things you can't fix, damage on the putting green that does not include any damage or conditions that result from normal practices or maintaining overall condition of the putting green, such as aeration holes, and Jason Spitzner doesn't aerate anymore, so we're good at Edgewood, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and grooves from vertical mowing, irrigation or rain or natural influences, natural surface imperfections such as weeds, areas of bar, disease, or uneven growth, or natural wear to the hole. So a lot of similar stuff there. I think most people will just take it with spike marks probably.
Do you think from a fairness standpoint, does it make a little bit more sense, from competition, just that, if you've got fortunate to have maybe that early tee time and, everything is absolutely just perfect versus if, let's say, you're a later afternoon tee time and therefore they would probably had a lot more garbage, let's say, as far as in your line. So, hopefully from at least fairness standpoint, hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. Pace of play, don't know just yet. That
we'll have to see. I agree with that. It does bring a equity into play a little bit where you can fix some stuff. And I was, before players would get mixed up as to when they could fix it and when they couldn't. We'll have to see how that plays out. We haven't had any discussion about that on the PGA Tour or anything like that. One of the things I did see, which I thought was odd, and I don't think you saw this, but Brandon Grace was in the hunt the whole time. He hit it in the penalty area on number 17, and when he went to make his drop, he actually got in a catcher's position and dropped it from that. Right away, I remember when we were at a rules deal, and I think there's a picture in the rules book that shows you can't do that, but somebody later stated that he did it. His hand was higher, knee high, so apparently maybe you can drop it from your back as long as you get it approximately knee height.
Yeah, it does say in there as far as knee height once again, and so I'm just guessing that we're going to have to make sure and get the measuring tape on out and see what that is from the bottom of the knee to the top of the knee. That's our area, and so if you're kneeling, if you're laying, if you're whatever position you are, whatever you're going to drop that ball, it's at approximately that height once again. And we even commented, I think, our last episode is that it seems like some of the tour players that they've shown so far, it's an awkward little situation.
It's hilarious to watch them do it. They're all doing a little bit different way, and I'm not so sure that they quite know what to do yet.
Right. You'll see some, like you said, with Grace and almost getting into a catcher's position. Once again, if he was just dropping it at that current height of what his knee was currently, that wouldn't be necessarily at knee height when he's standing at a vertical position. Others I've seen also kind of stoop and almost like where their knee starts kind of leaning forward once again. And so, I mean, it's, I don't think they're able to call in any longer, but if they were, I'm sure we'd be having phone calls galore on some of these drops most recently. And so it's one of those learning experiences once again for everybody, including the tour players.
So Matt, is there any other rule that you'd like to talk about today to bring up anything different than what we've already talked about, or anything you think needs to be said as we go forward?
I tell you, I'm still trying to get my head around all these things we've talked about these last 2 episodes so far.
It's been a lot, right? So the only other thing that I want to just real quickly, we talked about last time that the search went from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. Understand that there has been a rule change there that if you're looking for your golf ball and you accidentally move your ball while you're searching, there is no penalty, where before there actually was a penalty if you were in search. But now if you're in search and didn't do it obviously intentionally, if you did it accidentally, the ball must be replaced to its original spot. So again, I think it's a little bit more equitable if you're looking for your golf ball. Before, you would almost go so slow and you were picking your feet up and you didn't want to touch anything. Now if you happen to be searching for your ball and you accidentally move it, please put it back in its original position. I believe for today, that will be end of our rules discussion. I'm sure everybody just kind of tuned off. Now they're going to pop right back on, because our next segment is one of my favorites, and it's a numbers segment. And what we'd like to do is just come up with numbers between us back and forth and we'll come up with a number and see if Matt or see if Greg can come up with what that number actually means. My first number today, and we're talking about the PGA Tour, so I'm going to give you a little hint. This has to do with the PGA Tour. The number is 134.
134.
Think local PGA Tour player.
Is that what Tom Hoagie sits as far as in the money earnings currently?
Wow, are you any good or what? That is his current FedEx number, 134.
Okay.
Tom played great. Tom was top 12 going into Sunday, and it was for Phoenix. Again, for Phoenix, if you didn't get a chance to watch, it was raining, it was windy, it was cold, not necessarily your Phoenix Waste Management Phoenix Open weather. So after this week, Tom is 134, that magic number like we talked about last week. 125 with the wraparound season, it doesn't take long before you start to fall pretty drastically in those numbers.
I thought he had such a nice pattern going, 67, 68, 69, so I figured for sure Sunday would have been 70. And if it would have been, it would have been a top 10. But unfortunately, I think he finished at 75 or 76, I think, that third day for probably about 280 score. And
he shot 5 over the last day, and it wasn't very easy, and we've talked about this continuously. It's hard out there.
Right.
It's hard, and that was a tough day. But again, opportunities when you get there, hopefully, this week. I don't know if he's playing this week or not. Hopefully he continues to do well. My second number, and it's a group of 3 numbers, and this does not have anything to do with the PGA Tour or anything like that. My 3 numbers are, and I'm going to say what they are. So it's 33 degrees, 30.5 degrees, and 30.0 degrees.
Those are the temperatures I hope it gets to next week.
Without the minus sign, right?
Right.
'Cause I think the minus sign is probably closer than the regular temperature. Those are actually, I get asked this frequently, what is a standard loft of certain clubs? And in the last 5 years, I think it's just Katie bar the door. All the equipment companies have started playing with lofts, and their technology that they use is really good because they can lower the loft but still get the height with how they're doing weights and things like that. So those numbers, 33, 30.5, and 30, are 3 different lofts of 7-irons produced by the same company but different brands, or not brands, different models. So one model is 33 degrees, another model is 30.5, and the next model is 30. So is there a standard number, Matt?
Boy, no. It's kind of all over, isn't it?
It is amazing. And this kind of all started, I think, I use this example a lot with Tommy Armour 845s. So this, and we recognized it with the wedges. You know, when I grew up, again, hickory sticks, whatever the case might be, your pitching wedge was 52 and you had a sand wedge. Eventually they made 60-degree lob wedges. Well, when Tommy Armour came out with their 845s, all of a sudden, everybody hit it at least one club farther. And nobody could ever figure it out. Well, guess what they did? They made that pitching wedge 48, and then everything was 3 or 4 degrees stronger for there. So we hit it all one club longer. Guess what that did? Well, A, it made us happy because we hit it farther, and B, now all of a sudden we had to add another club between that pitching wedge and that sand wedge.
Yeah, that's like, and when you look at people's set makeups nowadays, it's amazing how many people don't have many wedges as far as in their bag. And so I think they've probably got that driver, 3-wood, 5-wood, maybe even a hybrid in there, maybe 3 or 4 iron all the way down through a 9-iron and a pitching wedge, and then maybe like one sand wedge. And, for your average player that maybe is an 18, 19, 20 handicap player, you got a lot of tools in your bag for those long, long distances that we're not very good at. But we've got very, very few in the distances you're going to see so often. We're not hitting greens in regulation every time. We're having a lot of shorter pitch shots in that area, inside 75, 85 yards. And so I think if people had better, knowledge as far as, what those degrees are and what those limitations are, and you could try to throw more clubs in their bag, probably in the shorter end, I think it would probably help their games overall.
I agree, because the average player has a hard time making not a full swing if they're hitting it 40 yards or 50 yards. And I'm not saying we need 56-degree clubs, but I agree with you. Gapping is a big term that we have now with all our companies. Like before, it used to be 4 degrees between the whole set. Now with the technology with launch monitors and things like that, they have a better idea of maybe between the 3 and the 4, and we don't need 4 degrees. Maybe we can have 5 degrees. Maybe between our fairway wood and our hybrid, or between our 2 hybrids, because of the way they're made, maybe we don't need 2 degrees difference. Maybe we can go 4 degrees difference in this aspect and go 5 degrees as we go. So again, technology and numbers start to help us a lot. So if you need help with what your loft and lie is on your clubs, please don't be afraid to ask. One of the amazing things about Google is you can Google it and you'll get your specification of your club and see where you stand in that realm of what are my lofts. I hit 2 or 3 different clubs when I was in Orlando at the PGA show. You really, unless you're swinging it really slow, as long as your swing speed gets up there 70, 80 miles an hour, you really shouldn't be hitting it shorter nowadays. The companies have it figured out. My normal 7-iron for me is 165 if I really hit it good. A couple of those numbers that I told you when I grabbed the longer clubs, I actually hit it almost 180, 175, 180, which is 1 or 2 clubs stronger. Does it really matter what number you hit? Yes and no, and obviously they're taking some spin away too. So there is some give and take with those lofts. But if you are hitting it shorter, I think there's some opportunities there with new clubs or new lofts and lies. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your local PGA Pro. I'm sure they'll be happy to help you out. Matt, my next number, and this is somewhat based on Tom Hoagie's 134. My number is 847,304.
That sounds like maybe possibly career earnings by Tom.
That's a very good question. I believe Tom's career earnings are more than that now. He's been out there playing for a while. When I started looking up Tom's number for the FedEx Cup, since they use points now, they don't use dollars anymore, so it's a little harder to find dollars. I looked back last year on the PGA Tour, 125 dollars made by the 125th player, $847,304. That's what it took money-wise to make the 125. Doesn't matter because they use points.
Isn't that just crazy nowadays? Because it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, which everything doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but where you saw the first person to hit $1 million, and now, I don't know how many people last year actually made in excess of $1 million, but...
Funny you should ask. We haven't talked about this. My next question. So what number on the money list was the $1 million mark? So
I'm going to say there's probably 50 guys maybe.
Okay, so 125 was 847,000. If you were 114th on the money list, you made $1 million.
Wow. We're in the wrong occupation.
Well, that's our occupation. We make that, Matt. What is wrong with you? You know we make that.
Boy, I tell you what, I'm a little shy of that.
So good. I mean, the Tiger Woods effect, maybe.
Yeah.
You look back and obviously everything changes. So if you make $1 million on the PGA Tour, you finish 114th. That's not bad.
That's really good.
I mean, you have obviously a lot of expenses and there's a lot of stuff going on there, but at least it's $1 million. My next number, and again, I'll preface this a little bit. It's 19 years and 4 days.
19 years and 4 days.
Has to do with the PGA Tour.
I give up.
That is the age of the youngest player to ever win a PGA Tour event. Okay, it wasn't Tiger Woods, wasn't Rory McIlroy. His name was Harry Cooper. I believe it was like 1923, back when I was born, Matt. Back in the early 20s. I remember
you played junior golf with him, didn't you?
I remember Harry playing all the time. I thought for a 19-year-old he was pretty good. What is the oldest age? And do you happen to know who it was?
The oldest age
Oldest
a person's
age.
won.
How old, yes, was a person. We obviously know Jack Nicklaus, age 46, won the Masters, will forever be with that picture in that film or what it is. So the oldest player, his age was?
I'll say 52.
Right on the button, 52 years old. Do you happen to know who it is?
No.
Sam Snead.
Is that
Which
right?
makes sense.
It does. 80
It makes sense.
victories or whatever it was. Or...
Yes. Yeah. So 19 years, 4 days, and then 52 years old. So once somebody at 52 wins another tour event, Tiger maybe, who knows who it will be, they'll have to add the days in there because there's like 4 or 5 people at age 19 that won a tour event. My next and last number, right? So you be ready with your numbers now. My last number is 14.
14.
Has to do a little with the rules of golf. That is the maximum number of clubs you're allowed to have while you play.
I was thinking
14.
like dots, 14 dot something else. I didn't even
Good
think
point.
of just 14.
Good point. Yeah, I've kind of been unfair, and I can't wait till the retaliation
We've had so
starts
many
here
dots.
soon. So, maximum number of clubs you can have is 14 in your bag. You can have 5, you can have 10, you can have 14. Doesn't really matter. I think if they want to make, I don't like the 2 different rules for pros and amateurs. I don't like that. What do you think? That's off the cuff. Do you like that or not?
Yeah, I'm not really big for bifurcation of the rules. I just kind of like it. Just make it simple. It's the same for everybody.
I think it's great that we get to play a game the same way that a person who is the best in the world at it. I've seen it happen in a couple other sports, and it hasn't necessarily grown the game at all. So I hope they stay with that. 14 clubs is the max. When we went through our PGA membership things, we had an interview at the end that we had to do, and my last question, they ask you what would you do or how could you change it. I said I think we should go to 10 clubs or 11, 10 or 11 clubs. Would do a couple things. A, it would make us play a little more. You have to hit different shots, different lengths, things like that. B, it would be a little bit less expensive to buy new clubs. 14 clubs is, I think, a lot. If we have to have a club for every 4 degrees, I don't know how much imagination is involved, things like that.
Yeah, and how many times have you probably at your club even done like a 3-club event for like a men's club or a women's club event or something like that? It's surprising sometimes you see some of the scores they're shooting. They sometimes aren't that different by going that way.
No.
We've had others that have went out just for fun and say, today I'm going to play the odds, or today I'm going to play the even irons. I've done that as well. Same thing. Probably didn't even score that much different. I went out and played the one day I was out with Chris Croach, and he just happened to have his quiver bag, and I think he had like 5 or 6 clubs in his bag, and went out there, and I think he shot right around even with those 5 or 6 clubs once again. But I don't know how much it would change as far as if we had to drop a club or two.
I think if the average player looked at their bag, they obviously have 3 or 4 clubs they use a lot, and if they not very often, especially if you're playing the same place. If you're moving around, you probably have some different clubs. But you could probably get it down to 6 clubs at the most that the average person hits all the time. If we could lower I think the better you get, the more you control your distances, the more having more clubs in your bag is a benefit. Having grown up on sand greens, I never knew what an 8-iron, a 9-iron, a pitching wedge, or a sand wedge was until I started playing grass greens, because we always chipped with our 7-iron. No matter if we were, once I got to 150 yards and in, we always rolled the ball up. So I never really knew how to use those clubs. I still don't really know how to use those clubs, but it would be interesting to see how many times players actually use all their clubs in their bag, and it's not a lot. Even good players, if you go. One of the things I think that makes a great golf course is you get to use more than 7 of your clubs.
No, that's true. And, around here, and especially when you're kind of playing your local and home club, you probably do end up playing a lot of some of the same shots and probably the same few clubs. And I know my staff, they joke around with me a lot and bring back this one story quite frequently. As I think it was a couple of years ago, I had gotten some new irons in, and I went out there. I was going to play one day with them, play 9 holes, and I hadn't even had a chance to even take the plastic off of the iron heads just yet. All right, and I did that on purpose then. So I just left them on there, and I got done playing. As far as that, that 9, and I probably had about 6 of the irons probably still had plastic still on them. I probably could have played 4 or 5 more rounds after that. I still would have probably had half of them with plastic on them. So
was that abandoned? You had plastic on your clubs
right.
too?
Well, I broke those off right before we went to the first tee. I didn't think that'd be appropriate to leave it on there.
That happens to be my numbers for this podcast. Do you happen to have any numbers for me?
Well, how about as far as we kind of stick maybe a little bit with equipment-wise, 55.
55? That's my age. That means I get a senior discount. That's my age.
55.
I don't know.
Well, I'm always infatuated with guys that hit it long ways and distance. And right now, in the current PGA Tour season, there are 55 guys through the Waste Management that hit it average over 300 yards right now. Now, there's a lot of guys right on their heels, but 55 guys that hit over 300.
I think that's partially misleading. Because I think they only use 2 holes for that. Or there's only 2 or 3 times. I mean, that's a long ways. And people say I hit it 300. If you see somebody hit it 300, that's a total different ballgame.
It is.
That's a total different ballgame. Now, here's what I will say. One of the nice things about watching Phoenix when the weather wasn't great, and for us in this area, we played a lot of weather that was like that, at least as far as the ball goes. They were actually hitting what we would consider to be normal distances. Ricky Fowler was carrying it 260. That's not the previous days he was carrying it, 300. Even Tyler Champ, his numbers were down like 30 yards. So part of, I'm not saying they don't hit it far, because they do hit it forever, but part of the conditions of the golf courses that they play on and the great weather that they get has a little bit of an impact on it.
Okay, I'm going to give you one more then, kind of sticking with something similar then. 428.
428 must have been the longest drive hit that week.
It wasn't this week, but it is recorded as far as on the current season right now. And actually, there was a lot of guys I think that hit it 400, and that was actually in the Safeway Open. That was Patrick Rogers that did that on hole number 13, 428 yards. But I was surprised at how many guys actually had registered a 400-yard tee shot. Now, a lot of it, you look at it, was probably on 2 or 3 different courses, and on some of them on the same hole. So obviously, once again, it's kind of a little bit of a product of the course they're playing, or the hole they're playing. And so
if you think of 428, think of the golf course that you play on most, could be anywhere in town. And I think of, for us, hole number hole number 7, which was hole number 8.
Right.
That's 425 yards from the back tees. That is remarkable.
Isn't it, though?
That is remarkable.
I think out here, number 2, even number 2, depending on if you're playing from, are probably white tees, blue tees are probably close. You'd basically be able to drive every single par 4 if you could hit it 428 yards. Yeah, so that is crazy.
I wonder if I could break 80. 70. Maybe 70? Any more numbers you got for us this week, Matt? One more number.
One more number.
Okay.
It's actually a couple numbers.
Oh.
This was just kind of a random thing I happened to see the other day. I was reading through some golf stories.
Love it.
57.
57. It's the steak sauce that the guys put on their steaks when they get done playing.
That is very good. I do that as well, but that was not the number I was thinking of. 57 years ago today, February 7th, 1962, Sam Snead became the first and only male golfer to claim a title on the LPGA on tour.
What? How does that happen?
I don't know if this was an exhibition match, but he posted a 5-under 211 to defeat Mickey Wright by 5 strokes at the Royal Poinciana Plaza Invitational. I think there was like 14 players in the field or something like that.
Interesting.
So
not only is he the oldest, he's the oldest one to win a PGA Tour event.
Right.
I'm going to assume he's the oldest one to win an LPGA event.
I wonder why he's won so many times. He's playing every tour event.
Make twice as many events to play in.
Right.
That's an awesome number there. So that'll end our numbers segment for this week. Our last thing that we'll do each time that we get together is we'll have an award. We've called it the Greggie and Mattie Awards. Matt, do you have any awards that you'd like to give out this week?
I do. I would like to give one to Sergio Garcia. That was some major club swinging going on in that bunker there.
He's got to be tired.
That was quite an outburst.
Got to be tired. I think there's something else going on that we don't know about because that was not very good. I have an award, a Greggie Award, and this one would go to Gary Woodland and Amy Bakkerstadt. Thankfully, the PGA Tour put this out on their Twitter page, and it's all over Google. It's all, if you don't know about it, Amy's a Special Olympics person, was on the tee with Gary Woodland on a practice round of hole 16. It is. I couldn't stop watching it, Matt. I kept watching it, and Amy, I can't do it justice telling you what happened, but she's a Special Olympian. She does have a golf scholarship, so she does play a little golf. They set it up where she wanted to play with Gary one hole at 16. There was a bunch of people there. We know what 16 is like at the Waste Management. She ended up making a par. If you haven't seen it yet, please go out there and look at it, because it is, when you have no hope in human nature, this kind of helps you.
Was she probably about the only individual that week that didn't get booed on 16?
Yes. Tom got booed 3 times, I think, on one hole on 16 there. But it is an awesome deal, and her confidence in Gary Woodland's tone of voice when he was asking her, "Do you want to hit this one?" and she said, "Yes, I got this," and "Thank you," all those great stuff. So she made a par on that hole all by herself. It was a great deal. So we need more of that.
That was a fantastic story.
Anything else for this week, Matt?
You know what? I'm looking forward to our next podcast. It's been a fantastic week. We're getting a lot more snow here, it looks like, as far as it here in the Fargo area. Hopefully, though, the golf season is not far away.
Once again, thanks for listening to What's My Tea Time. If you have any questions or like stuff that we do, or you want some information, we are on Twitter right now at What's My Tea Time, at What's My Tea Time on Twitter. If you'd love to sponsor our podcast, please let me know. Please let Matt know. We'd love to have sponsors as well for this episode. We hope everybody has a great safe time in the next couple days in the Great White North. See you next time.